Buenas noches. Gracias por venir a este evento. Okay, let's do that in English. Okay, so this is about Jakarta EE11. And my name is Ivar Grimstad. I'm the Jakarta EE developer advocate at Eclipse Foundation. These are my social media. This is an old slide. I don't use X much anymore. It's a blue sky one, so I'll share that one with you when I update the slides and give them to you. I'm involved in a lot of open source stuff, as you see, but and you can see me on all these social medias. But we're going to talk about Jakarta EE, and before we do that, I want to do a little timeline. So you probably remember the namespace change we did in 2020, and that was Jakarta EE9. And this was all because of legal reasons that we did this namespace change. And we're not going to do it again, I can promise you that. So it's a hurdle, but it kind of cleaned up the community. So all the libraries that weren't maintained any longer, you can see they are still in the Java X namespace. So now you know that it's at least updated in 2020 if it's on Jakarta namespace. So it is actually a kind of a little bit elevation of the quality of the community as well. E10 is the current release, sort of, out there. It came in 2022. And the brand new thing there was the core profile. I'll get into that in a minute. And then it's 11. And originally this slide had 2024, and it had 2024, all of 2024, up until December. We still hope for it. And we actually released core profile. That's why it's /5. So we're waiting for web profile and platform to be released, but parts of Jakarta 11 was released in December, but not the entire thing. And I'll go into in this talk about what these question marks are and what 11 is about. And to do that, I just want to set the stage that when we talk about Jakarta EE, we talk about specifications. And a specification is a textual, human-readable document that describes the technology. It's an API artifact that you can find on Maven Central that we as developers are using. And it's a TCK or test compatibility kit that we use to test and verify that an implementation fulfills all the requirements of the specification. And when it does that, it's a compatible implementation. And we need at least one compatible implementation per specification to ratify it as final. But from there on, it can be as many implementations as possible. 10 is the current release out there. And this is how 10 looks like. So all the blue ones were updated from 9 to 10. Because in 9, we only did the namespace change. And that was a very good decision by us. Because if we had done these changes in 9 as well as the namespace change, then that migration from Spring Boot 2 to Spring Boot 3 that you've been doing would have been so much harder. Because then there would have been API changes as well. Now it was just a namespace change. And as you see, there were lots of specifications that were updated in 10. If we compare this to 11, you can see it's about the same amount of specifications that are updated. All the blue ones are updated. There's one new one, Jakarta Data, and I'll demo that one later. And the gray ones, they're just because they're not updated doesn't mean they're not important. It's just that they weren't updated for this release. They will be updated for the next release, maybe. Or they are stable as they are. So 11, this is the entire platform. So this is what I'm talking about. This is a Jakarta E11 platform. That's the total set of specification. It has a compatible implementation or many compatible implementations. And each of these specifications also has a compatible implementation. But this is the entire platform, and we're still waiting for that one to be released. And the reason for that is the TCK, you remember, the test compatibility kit for the platform isn't done yet because we're refactoring it. We used the old Java test framework that Sun developed in 1999. So we've updated it to use Archillion and JUnit, so it's a little bit newer technologies. So now it's much easier for other developers to go in and do it. And that work has been a little bit more than anticipated. A subset of the platform is the web profile. That is more the traditional web applications. You have everything from persistence, security, and all the UI stuff. And the web profile is also, that's the next one we're going to release. Because I think it's 4 failing tests or something, and they're just wrapping up the user guide for the TCK. So the web profile will be released before the platform. So hopefully before the end of this quarter. And then we have the core profile that was introduced in Jakarta EE 10. And this was the first time we introduced a new profile since Java EE 6, when web profile was introduced. And this is a core set of specification targeting microservices or headless services. So this is for creating RESTful endpoints and the specifications you need for that. And one of the key specifications in this one was CDI Lite, which is a subset of CDI, but it removes the dynamic stuff that CDI has so it can be resolved at compile time. Because somebody wants to compile this with GraalVM, for example, and produce a native image, then you can do it with CDI Lite. With CDI, it's not possible because it resolves everything or many things at runtime. And Core Profile is released in December. It's available in Maven Central. There are implementations out there, so you can use Core Profile today. Jakarta 11 is based on Java SE 17. So anybody on older than 17, on 8, for example? No, good. 11, yeah, 17, 21, 142. So anyone on 23 or 24? Soon there. So what we're doing with this one is that we set the API source levels at Java SE 17. So we compile everything with 17. But we make sure it runs on 17 and 21 and above. So if you're on 21, you can use that in your applications. It's just that the APIs doesn't have the latest stuff. There weren't really that much new things that were needed to be exposed through the APIs between 17 and 21 anyway. So we decided to stay on 17 to have as much as the industry with us, because many people are still on 17, but you can use 21. We're also, this is kind of not true any longer, but we're also trying to establish this release cadence. You saw it in 2020, 2022, 2024, 2026, and going on. Every second year, about 9 months after a Java LTS, like 21 was released in September, not last year, the year before. And then we wanted to use release Jakarta 11 in June, after 6 to 9 months after the LTS of Java, and that is how we want to continue. So when Java 25 comes out in September, we want to release Jakarta 12 in 2026. But we weren't really able to do this because of the TCK refactoring, but we are working on 12 and we're still sticking on that it should be released in 2026. So this was kind of just a little glitch. There is a milestone of all the APIs out in Maven Central. It was released in May, so we were done with all the specifications and all the work in May. So it has taken from May until February the year after to do the TCK refactoring. So you can understand how massive that job is. And this will be the last time we do that refactoring, because now we're on newer technologies. But you can use the platform, web profile, and core profile out there as the milestone 4. They haven't changed since that. Yeah, Q3 was the goal. So cross-cutting concerns. What we wanted to do in 11 was to, in addition to update these specifications, we also want to do some things on the platform level. So managed beans were taken away. It's replaced by CDI. We took all the optional features of the specifications. They are not allowed in the platforms any longer. So all the SOAP, XML stuff, gone. that it's only gone from the platform and profile specifications. So if you're still using SOAP, you're safe, you're good, because the implementations are still there. The specification will never die; it will always be there, and as long as you're using it, it will be there. But we won't require an implementation of the platform to have it. The security manager is deprecated for removal in JEP 4.11. It's another JEP later, JEP, I can't remember the number, but it's actually going away. So I think in Java 24, it will be disabled, and you cannot enable it. So it will go away eventually. So we're just making sure that we don't have any references to it. We're embracing Java records throughout the platform as well. So let's go through some of these specifications in a little bit more detail, and then I get to the code. So the security specifications, there are 3 of them. The most important one is Jakarta Security API, or Jakarta Security 4.0. They are introducing that's the API that we as Java developers are using. The authentication and authorization APIs are more for the vendors that implements this stuff. We don't really touch them that much. But they're introducing multiple authentication mechanisms. And the way that works is that you can have an authentication handler, and if it's UI, you can use a form-based one, and if it's a service, you can use a JSON Web Token, for example. So you can have these multiple authentication mechanisms within your application. I mean, this is easy to do with a proxy in front of something, but you can do it in your Jakarta EE application, actually. We're also creating a bridge specifications to be able to leverage the JSON Web Tokens properly. So because MicroProfile has implemented JSON Web Tokens authentication, Jakarta Security kind of does it, and we need some glue in between, because we don't want those dependencies to go back and forth and create cycles. So that's why we create this common code in a bridge specification in between. We're creating bringing back something that was proposed for Java EE8, an in-memory identity store. So this is good for testing. I wouldn't do this in production, but if you're just testing and you just want to have your identity store defined in your application like this, you can do it. And this is good for your test classes and stuff. But when you go to production, you probably wouldn't maintain it like this way. You can also do the custom policies programmatically. So in this case, you can have these if you're a role of someone who is allowed to go into the office and do stuff, you can actually programmatically say that you can only do that within working hours. So you can do that in your application code if you want to. So as I said, 3 specifications. Security 4.0 is the one we as developers are using. Concurrency is interesting because concurrency 3.0 supports virtual threads. And they also do some other more smaller things. The important thing here is virtual thread support. And virtual threads are new in 21. And in Jakarta EE, we have this kind of love-hate relationships to threads because we tell the developers, you're not supposed to mess with threads. Because if you do that, the application server may kill it for you. So we have all these managed executed servers, managed scheduled executed servers, and context servers, etc. These managed things to manage threads for you. And with virtual threads, we're kind of thinking, yeah, let's do the same thing there. And this is sort of, but wait a minute, we're on 17 here. How can we do this? Because virtual threads were introduced in 21. So what we're doing is, we're not exposing anything with virtual threads in the APIs. We don't need to. What we're doing in these managed service definitions, these annotations, is to add a flag that you can say you want a virtual thread, yes or true, true or false. And then we define what we said, Java SE runtime aware support of virtual threads, which means that if you're in the concurrency API says that virtual equals true, but you're running on 21, then you'll get a virtual thread as expected. But if you're on 17 and still have that flag set to true, you will get a platform thread. So from a developer perspective, you won't really notice it. Whether this makes sense or not, I'm not sure, because virtual threads is a different thing than threads. It's much lighter. You can just spin them up and kill them and do stuff. So whether it makes sense or not, I'm not sure. But at least we can say we support it, and it's up to you to prove whether it was right or wrong to do it this way. CDI supports records and seal types. So that's kind of the records thing, so you can inject a record. A priority on producers as well, which is useful. We're also moving the integration requirements for CDI into the platform, because CDI spec has a lot of EJB stuff in it, because it integrates very well with EJBs. And we're kind of moving that into the platform to easier be able to remove it later if we want to. So CDI gets more pure CDI. Expression language. So this is also more of a update release. They support Java records, since records is a common theme of this release, and a lot of deprecations here and there. But it's not a very big update. It's basically used by Phases, more or less. And Phases is also doing a lot of maintenance, a lot of clarifications in the specification documents, updates, deprecations here and there. A UID converter. So if you're using Phases, you can use the UID directly and not have to do create the UID yourself in the code. Servlet, same thing. Lots of updates. Servlet is one of our most used specifications. And anybody Spring developers? Spring Boot. Yeah. So you're all using servlets. Yeah. So because Spring Boot is built on servlets. So there are lots of new stuff, but it's fine-grained things. You can control the response codes of redirects and stuff. But that's usually if you're doing the low-level stuff. Persistence are doing a lot of updates. One thing is records as embeddable classes. You can also, you don't have to use the at persistence context annotation any longer. You can use add inject because it's getting more CDI friendly. You can also configure it programmatically. So it's a persistence configuration class. So you don't have if you don't like XML and don't want to write a persistence XML file, you can do it in Java code and pull it in properties from somewhere else if you want. The most important thing is that they are deprecating the calendar, the old calendar, and replacing it with the new Java Time API. So if you're using calendar date time, you should replace them with like the local date time and those newer classes, which were introduced in Java 8, wasn't there? So it's not that new, but it's still the new calendar because nobody has deprecated this before. But now we're deprecating it in persistence. So if you're using it in your database code, then sooner or later you have to get rid of it. All right. Support for records invalidation. So you can validate records properly. You could do it before, but it wasn't really specified how it should work. RESTful Web Services are also doing a small update. It's more about mentally preparing to remove their native component model. They have this at resources and these annotations where they inject stuff. So now they want to move over to the CDI and use the same model as everybody else. Otherwise, it's more or less a cleanup release. The reason why it's a major update is because they removed a dependency on some XML stuff. Then we have data. And data is a new specification. And data standardizes the repository pattern for data access. And this may sound familiar. Right? So if you're a Spring developer, you probably have seen this code before. But this isn't Spring code. This is Jakarta code. This is Jakarta data. And I'll demo it in a minute. And we're also doing some more that Spring Data doesn't have. We're creating a Jakarta data query language, which is a subset of the Jakarta persistence query language. But it allows you to write queries in the annotations using a query language. So it's a little bit more safer than using the method name, for example. So this one, books by type would be the query, but you can also say add to the query where title equals like something. And this is the query language in the query annotation. So let's look at some code. All right. So I have here a Jakarta 11 application. I'm using the milestone 4. And it's on Java 23. And I'm using Open Liberty as the compatible implementation here. I could use a different one, but these have one of the first with a Jakarta data implementation. So let's Open Liberty has this cool mode where you can run in dev mode. So it's a little slower to start, but when it's started, I can just make changes and it will just update like this. So it has a fairly, and you see 0.091 seconds. It is still pretty fast. The fastest Spring Boot application would be like 3.9 seconds. So and this is in dev mode. In production mode, it would be faster. So this application, it is a very simple RESTful endpoint. It has a greeting endpoint, and you can send in a name and get a greeting for that name back, and you can get a list of all greetings. So everything here is empty because I haven't implemented it yet. The application configuration of this class is just the application path and extends the Jakarta REST application. So there are no configuration involved. And I have a entity, a database entity that has a ID name and message and getters and setters to this. So if I just want to exercise this one and test it out and see, I'll just see, do I have any greetings? You can see here it's an empty list. There are no greetings here because I haven't implemented any yet. And even if I post to it, you can see it posts in, but it doesn't do anything. So let's implement this one. And the first thing I can do is to create a new interface. I'll call it greeting repository. And I'll give it a @repository annotation. You can see this is the Jakarta data. I will extend the CRUD repository, and let's just remove this one. And it has on class greeting with the primary key long. So now I've created the repository. I can now start using it in my REST resource. So now, rather than finding one here, I can now call the greeting repository, and here you can see I have all the find all equals find by ID and etc. So all this is generated for me by the Jakarta data specifications. So I just want to say toList, I think. List. I think I have some GitHub Copilot or something activated because it's just no, wait a second. This is not the find all. I want to do this find all here. There you go. So in this one I want to do let's see, I'll just do the filter, find the first one. Find all stream. Why isn't it working? Oh, I'll just do the first. There you go. Oh, crap. I'll just this is fine by name. Fine by name, like this. Why not do it more? Harder than that. Yeah. Yeah, because I haven't implemented that method yet. But I didn't think I was doing. Sorry about this. I'll create a method here called the find by name. And I'll call it ignore case. I'll actually call it find by name equals ignore case. And then I'll just take this one away. It's just I haven't prepared this good enough. So I deleted the wrong method when I did the preparations for this one. So there you go. So if I wanted to, I should write an optional greeting. Because I'm not sure if I have a greeting by name yet. So if I just add a method like this, find by name in all case, I can now use it in a find by name method. I do call the find by name. I just take the greeting, gets the message, and write only the message. You remember it's an ID and message and a name. So I just use the name to find the greeting. But in order to find this, I also need to put something into the database. So I need a post method as well. Public void create. So I'll just take the greeting in, and I'll use the save method in the greeting repository and save it down. So if I now go and do the list, it's still empty. And if I take and say, hey, let's say hello from Duke here, I should now have the Duke's greeting in the database. If I just say Duke, I should have two of them. So apparently it works. I can also say to be like gender neutral. I can say hello from Miss Duke as well. So we have all these in the database. And if you remember the find by name method, if I only want the Duke message because there is only one Duke, then I can take this and filter by the Duke and do there's hello from Duke. So it's very similar to Spring Boot, or identical to Spring Boot more or less, and very convenient to create nice database access without writing any database queries or anything. And as I said, Open Liberty is one implementation. We have one implementation with Hibernate. There's an opportunity there because we don't have a implementation at Eclipse Foundation, so helping Eclipse Link, for example, to implement this, or do it as a separate project, or do it at Apache, the OpenJPA, folks would be super happy to have a Jakarta data implementation there. So why not do that? It's a small spec. It's fairly easy if you know persistence. So it's one of the easiest ways to get a hero status in open source. We have some prospective specifications like Jakarta MVC. It's not part of the platform, but it's there. It's version 3, so it's ready. It adds some some annotations on top of Jakarta REST, so you can create like Spring MVC. So the act control and view annotations for you. Also had Jakarta NoSQL. They're in release review very soon now. So Jakarta NoSQL 1.0 will be released maybe in a couple of weeks. So that's absolutely a candidate for next version of Jakarta EE. And a fun fact is that Eclipse JNoSQL, which is the compatible implementation of Jakarta NoSQL, implements Jakarta data as well. And that is the one that will be used as a ratifying implementation for Glassfish for Jakarta EE 11. It won't support JPA, but it will support NoSQL. Jakarta RPC is a project to standardize gRPC within Jakarta EE. It's fairly not very active. And the goal for that project is not to replace gRPC in Java in any way, so to just make it easier to use. So if you like gRPC and you want to contribute to something, this project is in desperate need, and this is even easier to be a hero in open source. So just go to that mailing list and look at that. Just because Jakarta 11 isn't released yet, it doesn't mean we're not talking about 12. So we have started talking about 12. And things we talk about for 12 are config. I threw in AI as well. We're not talking about it, but it will be cool. Jakarta MVC is absolutely a candidate. NoSQL is a candidate. We want to replace EJBs at some point. So we're thinking of introducing a service annotation for CDI, like you have at service in Spring. So an at service will do sort of the same things as the stateless EJB does today. HTTP 3 should be supported. I don't know if there actually needs any spec changes or anything, but that will affect mostly servlet to just support HTTP 3 as well. I don't think it's much work for us to do. If you want to check out what we're talking about, we're labeling all the issues that are being discussed or candidates or thrown out for EE12 on our GitHub issue tracker is labeled EE12. And if you want to add an issue, just add an issue and just ping me and ask me to add the label. So then it's up for discussion. So you can filter on this label there. To sum up, Jakarta E9 did the namespace change that we're not going to do again, hopefully. But if we're going to do, we have some pretty cool tooling for it. We created some transformer tools. There's the Eclipse transformer that does the transformation of the code for you, the bytecode level. So if you had any third-party libraries that were transitive dependencies in your application, and this worked for Spring as well. So if you had any transitive dependencies that were on the Java X namespace, you can just run them through these transformers, and the bytecode would be on Jakarta. And both of these tools work perfectly fine. The Eclipse transformer is at Eclipse Foundation. Apache Tomcat migration tool is at Apache, and they're open source. They're free to use, and they're easy to use. And just try them out. And they can take any namespace. So if your company is acquired and you have to change the namespace of all your code, you can just run the transformer on them. 10 is out there. 11 is sort of out there. When 9 was the namespace, 10 was the core profile, and 11 is Java 21 records, Jakarta data, CDI centrics, removals and deprecations. So it's a cleanup to increase the performance with the Java 21 and virtual threads, increase the developer productivity with stuff like Jakarta data and records and making CDI the common component model. And the Java levels is on 17, so you have nothing to be afraid of. It will run on 25 as well, and whatever version comes. But we will make sure it runs on 17 and 21. If you want to learn about Jakarta EE, you can go to LinkedIn Learning with this QR code and take the LinkedIn Learning course there. If you don't, this costs money. So if you don't have a LinkedIn subscription for this, you can ask me for a free version of it. And you will get a Jakarta EE 10 badge on your LinkedIn profile. The code I showed here, it's the Duke's data. You can look at the Duke's AI as well. I didn't show it because he didn't want any AI presentation here. But you can follow my hashtag Jakarta EE. It's weekly posts, and of course you can go to the startjakarta.ee to get started with Jakarta EE. It's a generator to generate a project for you that you can get started with Jakarta EE. So that was what I had. So thank you very much for listening. And before I let Tanya on the stage, I have 3 gifts here. So the 3 first person that asked a question will get one of these. And you can ask it in Spanish. I will any language. In Java.
We have one question online.
Good.
Can I still write native queries with Jakarta persistence? Does it offer any extra stuff than Spring?
You can, with Jakarta persistence, yes, you can still write native queries. Jakarta persistence doesn't give you anything that you wouldn't get in Spring, because in Spring, if you're using Jakarta persistence, you would use Jakarta persistence. Like JPA, that's Jakarta persistence. So if you're using the JPA style in Spring, you would use Jakarta persistence. But yes, you can write native queries. You can write call procedures from Jakarta persistence as well. So.